You are listening to Woody Radio. DJ Mike in with you on the big Saturday thing. It is now noon on the West Coast, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It is time to chat with Vic Wayne of Star Collector. But before we bring Vic on, let's hear one of his new songs. We're going to hear Stranger, Renting Space in My Head off the new album Game Day. Here's Star Collector on Woody Radio.
And the earworms that shake, and damn all the choices that I didn't get to make. 'Cause I tried to let you sway, but I can't send him away. There's a stranger in space in my head, and I try holding him down, but I can't turn it around. There's a stranger going to town in my head. There's a stranger in space in my head, and it's stranger than strange sometimes in my head.
Great new music from Star Collector. We heard Stranger, Renting Space in My Head from their new album Game Day. But we're going to find out just how new, because all the way from Vancouver, BC, I've got the man of the hour himself, Vic Wayne. Vic, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Man of the hour. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe even longer if we forget.
All the way cross-border.
Yes. Although Woody Radio is a Canadian station, so really I'm the one who's across the border. You're on the right side of the line.
Ah, I did not know that. So there we go. I guess that's why you have a little maple leaf flag behind a beaver on the. That probably should have been a clue to me.
Exactly. The only thing we don't have is like some kind of indicator of good health care or something like that. But I'm sure we can work that into the logo somehow.
Yeah, or pouring maple syrup or any of those other great cliches that folks like. But
That's right. I know you're going to hit me in the head with a hockey stick if I make too many bad jokes, but seriously, on a serious note, if that's even possible, when was the album Game Day released? Just how new is it?
It's pretty new. It came out on February 15th, so not even 2 months ago, I guess. And we started work on it just at the tail end of 2019.
Ah.
And then, luckily it was pre-pandemic, so we got a lot of the beds done. And then our fine ace stickman, Adrian, who also happens to be a really phenomenal recording engineer, we were able to do overdubs with him. So that kind of saved us. And I know a lot of my musical friends weren't able to do a lot of band stuff. But, in today's technology, you can fly files around. And, I think I was saying to you off the air that my younger brother, Adam, is currently playing bass with us, and he lives in Portland.
Ah, okay.
So, you can, it's a different world than it was, when we started out.
It is. I mean, we've all learned a whole lot about everything. How are you personally doing, with the pandemic and the quarantining? Are you guys okay?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, no worries at all, actually. Things have been pretty good here. I think there has been a bit of a spike lately, but, we're all pretty careful, and, the guys in the band are all ultra careful. So, we don't see each other much, but, luckily with videos, Steve, our guitar player, has become quite the little video director lately, little Francis Ford Coppola. And he's been rolling out some videos for us, which kind of fills the gap of, the fact that we can't really play live.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and have you been a big live band? Do you guys normally play out a lot?
Well, at various times throughout our long and storied history, we've been quite busy. But, the last few years, not so much, especially since we started the recording and COVID. It's been obviously not something that we've been able to focus on, but that you can only sort of do so much, when it comes to performing in the current state of things. So, like I said, the videos have been the real key thing, and just social media has actually been pretty amazing. There's a really great power pop community out there that has really embraced our new stuff, and it's been quite humbling, actually, and pretty wicked, I must say, yourself included. I mean, I think I mentioned one time in a post when you sent me a note that you played us again. I was like, man, that's like 7 weeks in a row. You're our Sacramento champion.
Yes, I am the president of the Sacramento chapter of the Star Collector fan club. If there were such a thing, I'd be the man.
All 2 members.
right. But gotta start somewhere. Yes, indeed. Now, so we touched upon that tricky topic, power pop. Would you guys say you kind of fit in the power pop mold, or what kind of genre do you guys feel that you fit into?
Oh, that's a great question, Mike. I do think we fit in that vein, but there's sort of different strains of it.
Yeah.
Some that really more sort of jangly 12-string Rick, cleaner sound thing is not so much our end of the spectrum. Ours is more kind of the Jam, Who, Smithereens, Sloan, Big Starry kind of thing. With the guitars are a bit heavier. Steve, our real guitar player, I often joke that my guitar playing is like trying to carve a pineapple with a butter knife. It's just
nice.
but I was a drummer, so I've got some decent rhythm, but Steve does all the real heavy lifting when it comes to guitar playing, and he kind of was weaned on that 70s AM radio rock, Cheap Trick and that ilk. So that sort of enters into our end of the spectrum, and I really grew up being a huge fan of the Who and the Jam and that kind of stuff, which is all a little more power chordy than the jangly thing. But, like when I hear these different mixes, like for instance, I was looking at some of the stuff you played just before. You played Respectable by the Stones, and then that Tamar Burke song, which I loved. And, even though there's quite a difference between the Stones and her song and Stranger, of ours that you just played, they all seem to flow pretty seamlessly, in my opinion. And so, so that long-winded answer to your simple question, I do think we fit into that quite well. It's just, it's a little more garagey. There's sort of that more high energy kind of windmills and scissor kicks and kind of thing.
I like it. Yeah, I like the louder side of it and the crunchier side. You mean, I would say that I'm really biased here. I'm older, but I came of age musically probably in the late 80s, early 90s. So I like anything that sort of reminds me of stuff I was listening to in the 90s.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Well, I mean, I liked your comment about the favorite. Just before we went on air about your favorite Stones album is the one that was your favorite in high school. You know, I think there's a lot of truth behind that. As funny as it came on, but there's a lot of truth to it too. You know, we kind of glamorized a lot of stuff that we loved when we were right in that pocket before responsible adulthood.
Yeah, exactly. And as you now, since you've heard that, you now know how old I am. But yeah, that was Some Girls was the album. I sort of like bands that just kind of rock hard while remaining melodic. I mean, that's what you guys do so well.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Well, I guess that's kind of the goal is, with the kind of stuff we do. Both Adam and I grew up, our first, real band was a mod band, sadly called The Mods. But of course, when you're 17 or 16, or I think Adam was 14 when we started the band, growing up in Edmonton, Alberta, somehow The Mods seemed really original. Yeah. We often joke that it's actually like calling your band, the hard rock band.
That makes sense. Or
generic much, Vic?
Yeah.
But Adam and I grew up in that sort of thing. And, the Jam was kind of like our real template. We were just monstrous fans of the Jam and still are. In fact, we even got to see them when we were just young sprites on their very last show in Vancouver.
Nice.
Before it was their last North American show before they split up. So that was like a childhood memory that you can't ever take away. We got to meet them and the whole thing. So it was pretty cool. And that really is the kind of stuff that we were weaned on and is really close to our hearts. So, Steve and I have shared a really long musical history. As you've probably known, you mentioned some of our older stuff. I mean, the band's been together for 25 years now.
Oh, wow.
And, so I've known Steve a really long time. And, Adam's my brother. So I've known him even longer. And our drummer, the new guy, he's only played with us for about 3 years because our longtime buddy Ringo had to move, wouldn't have to move, but he moved to a different city once he had a kid. So Adrian, our new drummer, we've known for 20 years. So he's the new guy. It's kind of like the Ron Wood of the band.
I like it. So a couple things to unpack there. So you guys actually had a drummer named Ringo. That's pretty cool.
Well, I'm pretty sure his birth certificate said something different.
Right. Well, Mr. Starkey's probably did too, but
his Star Collector birth certificate said Ringo.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, so you guys have been together for a long time. It sounds like longer than I've been doing radio. How did the band form?
Well, that's so I mentioned that Adam and I were in a band called The Mods when we were kids.
Yeah.
And we were a three-piece like the Jam, and I was a drummer at the time, and Adam was the bass player and the main lead singer. We all sang, and the guitar player's name was Dave. And that band only lasted a few years. Our very first recording that was ever released was with that band, and I have a lot of fond memories of those times. But then, we kind of went on and did our own things for quite a while. And then one day after a band that Steve and I had been in for a little while split up, Dave called me out of the blue and said, "I'm thinking of moving to Vancouver, and did you want to write some songs together?" And it was the one time, that little pocket of time, when I wasn't in a band. So I said, sure. We'd had a great chemistry as writers when we were younger, and the three of us with Adam just sort of, kind of shared a real musical upbringing. So Dave and I kind of wrote the first Star Collector album, named the band, and went in and recorded it. And then towards the end of recording, he kind of, we parted ways again. And at that moment, Steve kind of jumped back into the picture, and that was, 24 years ago.
Wow.
So 5 albums ago now, too.
That's great. Now, where'd the name Star Collector come from?
Well, the Monkees, isn't it?
That's okay. There you go. That's right. So a big Monkees fan as well.
Well, the very first band I ever listened to when I was a kid, when I was like 3 or 4 years old, was the Monkees. So, even pre-Beatles. So
Wow.
I think, it was the Monkees, then the Beatles, and then then the being in a local pizza joint with my mom when I was, I don't know, God, so young. I heard on the jukebox, I heard "No More Mr. Nice Guy" by Alice Cooper, and suddenly
Ooh.
my love of that kind of garagey rock thing mixed with the whole Beatles Monkees thing just kind of became the musical template for my life, I guess.
Wow, that song is a game changer, isn't it?
Oh, incredible! Michael Bruce is one of the most highly underrated songwriters in rock and roll. He's just crafted some brilliant stuff, but kind of got left by the wayside when Alan did his own thing.
Wow, indeed. So from the Monkees to Alice Cooper, it's interesting thinking about the Monkees as kids in that era. It probably might have been even a little bit more accessible than the Beatles. When you think about it, you could see them on TV all the time. There weren't really any ways to see the Beatles a whole lot, not on TV every day.
Yeah, true. I mean, I was too young to remember the actual TV show per se, but certainly that was the first music that was being played in my house, and yeah, I mean, you can't deny. I mean, they had the greatest writers. I mean, goodness, like you just have to look at the first 3 albums, even. I mean, it's just like one great tune after another. Why I'm a Believer and Stepping Stone and Pleasant Valley Sunday. It's just the list goes on.
Yeah, indeed.
And Star Collector, of course.
And Star Collector, of course. Well, enough to name a band after, for sure. So you guys started out in Edmonton, moving to Vancouver. Then you decided to follow, and was your reason to move to Vancouver? Was it musical?
Actually, it was.
Wow.
It was. I was in a really vibrant music scene in Edmonton that spawned some really cool bands like the Pursuit of Happiness guys were part of it before they moved to Toronto, and the punk legends SNFU were part of it before they moved to Vancouver. Junior Gone Wild was sort of was like an alt-country rock band that was around at the time, and it was a really vibrant scene, and some of those people are still playing. This phenomenal drummer Joel Anderson was in this really cool new wave band called Neo A4, and he still plays with like Jim Cuddy and stuff, and yeah, it's just, it was a really great scene, but then everyone started to disperse really quickly. And I kind of thought, well, okay, my choices.
Oh, hey, Vic, I think I lost you there. Hey, Vic, are you there? I'm just hearing static. Hey, Vic, we may have to take a break and call you back. One more chance. Come in, Vic. Okay, we're going to go ahead and play Cayenne and Caramel from Star Collector here on Woody Radio.
Here we go. This is it. I can feel it.
strong. Game day splayed out on the lawn. It's May Day and the siren song. Now there ain't no losing at all. It's game day for the young and strong. Game day played out on the lawn. It's the same way that you knew all along. You never knew me at all. No, you never knew me at all. You never knew me at all. Now there ain't no losing at all.
Couple more new tracks from Star Collector, the title track Game Day that we just heard, and before that Cayenne and Caramel. Chatting with Vic Wayne, we're back after some technical glitches. I guess this NAFTA thing isn't working out so great. We have to just sneak our signal across the border somehow.
That's right. It's essential travel.
Exactly. So where does the title of the album and song Game Day come from?
So, the original intent for the album was a lot, darker than, I guess it appears, and certainly than radio interviews will make it, which is fine because radio is for entertainment anyway. But, the actual impetus for the album came from some pretty heavy stuff that went on in my life. And as a songwriter, it's often the best way to get it out there by writing about it.
Yeah.
So the original intent for the whole Game Day album was for it to be a full song cycle, almost like a concept album kind of vibe. But it ended up being that the first 6 songs worked as a song cycle, and it didn't feel like there needed to be anything more when I got there. So we decided that the latter half of the stuff would just be kind of standalone songs. And, after a lot of listening and work on it that Adrian and I did in the studio, we kind of felt like it all hung together really well. So that's kind of the way it holds together. But, the overall sort of message of what the lyrical content is more to do with, the masks that people wear and what's really going on inside, and, the chaos that can happen in people's lives totally unexpectedly. And, I suppose I used it, and the word expectations, that people are often given expectations that are hard to live up to, and that sort of thing. And they take people down some dark paths. So there's a lot of darkness about the album as well. But it doesn't always come across in the music, I guess, because the band was just so, energetic and on their game that, sometimes the playing just overtakes the lyrical part. And that's fine because, in a lot of cases, people don't listen to lyrics. But as the writer, it is something that is important to me to be able to get the points across in some sort of way that's meaningful for me, at least. Whether it means something to anyone else, well,
and it is really upbeat and rockin' sounding for the most part. And sometimes that's the best kind of song and songwriting, where you grab somebody with the music and then maybe they'll hear the lyrics later. But, meanwhile, you've hooked them with the sound of the music.
Yeah, well, that's really funny. For some reason, I just had this memory. The very first album that Adam and I made way back when had a song on it called Empty Rooms. And it was the most up-tempo kind of snap-your-fingersy kind of vibey, almost swing feeling pop rock song. And the lyrics were about some old person who had ruined all their relationships and were going to die alone.
Wow. Yeah, there's your contradiction right there, yeah.
But you're right. It's the fact that there's, that contrast can often be can be good, because if everything, if the music's all super dark like the lyrics are, well, there's a place for that too. There's a lot of music that's like that, and if you like to pick up a Tool album, go for it. Or the other side of the coin is if you just want all sweetness and light, then get a Monkees album, and I don't have any problem with either kind of sides of that. It's just as a writer, I think it's a little more, I don't know, it seems more satisfying when there's a little more to it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of catharsis that happens, especially as a listener, if you can sort of suss out what the writer is saying and you can identify with it. Sometimes it needs to be loud and crunchy to, I don't know, get those lyrics out into the world. She left me, bang, 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 something like that. Just, like the Smithereens did that for me back in the late 80s, just really cathartic when I was going through some trials and tribulations. I think a good song can do that too.
Oh yeah, I love the Smithereens. Yeah, I mean, what's a couple of your favorite Smithereens songs?
Well,
turn the interview back at you.
Okay, there you go. The Green Thoughts album was my go-to album. I was living in the Midwest at the time, driving through snowbanks, sort of in the midst of a breakup, and so Green Thoughts and what's the other one? Deep Black were the ones that did it for me on that album.
Okay, yeah, I love that album. House We Used to Live In is a song I always wanted to cover, and we never actually got around to it. But that's great. Those first 3 or 4 albums are there. I mean, I like a lot of their stuff, but yeah, some of that's right in the pocket of my my wheelhouse too.
Have you guys done a lot of covers?
We really don't, like over the years when you're together for a long time, you do throw the odd one in. I think often we'll try to do like one per set. And we do Better Things, kind of the Fountains of Wayne version of the Kinks version.
Nice.
Our version of the Fountains of Wayne of the Kinks. And we do Bittersweet by the Hoodoo Gurus, which we've been doing for a long time, and it's still just a phenomenal tune and a phenomenal audience. Gets the audience going. We've done a few that are a little more out there. We briefly did like Butterfly Collector by The Jam and The Good's Gone by The Who that are kind of lesser known songs. We do The Real Me sometimes when we have Adam around, because you need a bass player to be able to pull that one off.
Oh, big time. Yes. Channeling John Entwistle.
Yeah. Which incidentally, I would say is probably my favorite rock song of all time.
Really? The Real Me.
Just throwing it out there. It's right up there. It's just, to me, it exemplifies every aspect of great musicianship, songwriting, and back to the theme of, something that means something too. That's just a brilliant song.
Wow. Brilliant album. I mean, when you think about it, I'm a big Who fan, always have been. I think I tend to overlook that album a lot, but it is really, really good. I think I need to play it a little bit more, but every song on that one just is a statement, and it is. I think it's probably the first time that John Entwistle's really been captured on, in a recording really, really well for one thing. And then, Keith Moon, probably the peak of his career. And, of course, Roger and Pete, what else can you say? But, that was a great document of them at the height of their powers.
100%. Yeah. Definitely a Desert Island album for me too, along with Revolver and any of a number of Jam albums.
Oh yeah, indeed. So not a lot of covers, but a lot of originals. You are the principal songwriter for the band.
Yeah, so we kind of write songs one of two ways, really. Either I write them on my own, or I write them with Steve. We'll write music together, and then I'm kind of the words guy. So that's kind of the way it generally works. Over the course of our albums, there was the whole first album that was with Dave, pretty much. And then the odd song that I wrote with him kind of over time that creeped into some albums, and wrote one with Kevin Kane from the Grapes of Wrath on one of our albums.
Oh, wow.
That he co-produced with me, and which was a great experience too. And, so there's been a few co-writes along the way, but for the most part, it's me and Steve, or just me hacking away on my acoustic, and then I take it to the band and we kind of figure it out from there.
That's great. Now, this album, Game Day, it sounds like it was it mostly written or all written before the pandemic started? Whole thing written?
It was, actually. I kind of wrote the first song from it in 2017.
Okay.
And kind of wrote the rest of it between that and sort of mid-2019. So it took, it was basically over a couple of years. And there was one or two songs that didn't actually get onto the album too. But yeah, the lion's share of it was written right in that time. And, not foreseeing the damdemic, we went in and, like I said, did the tracks at the end of 2019, kind of, just luckily that we had the dead tracks done, so we were able to complete it.
Yeah, because whenever I listen to music that's come out in 2020 or even especially now 2021, I always wonder, does this reflect the pandemic or was this done beforehand? Because it has changed a lot of people's, thinking or their musical content.
Well, yeah, that's a great point, Mike. I do think that there's going to be a lot of stuff that is informed by it, but I wouldn't say that ours was. It was all it was all written and conceived before the pandemic. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if any of the new stuff. That's one thing that has been good about if there's a bright side to the pandemic is that I've had the chance to write more because we haven't had a chance to do as many band related things in person. So I think I've got about 5 new songs, and I think Steve and I have 2 or 3 that we co-wrote together. So we kind of have about, 8 ready to go for a new album. And they weren't necessarily informed by the pandemic, but they certainly were, written during a time that we were able to have a little downtime.
Yeah, and that's good. That is good too. Do you guys normally write extra songs, or do you normally just write enough for an album and then put them on an album?
Yeah. So in the past, we've always seemed to have a few extras, hanging around. And, generally I think the way it's been is if, in the past, when we had a 12-song album, we'd usually record 13 or 14 and then choose 12. And for this one, we decided to just stick with 10. And I think we recorded 11. So yeah, we always have a little bit of extra stuff, to be able to have a little wiggle room in case, you decide something's not working. in context, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a wealth of stuff. It's not like we have 2 albums and we're paring it down to one.
Gotcha.
You know, it's not like a White Album thing.
No, but I hear a potential for an Odds and Sods or a Dead Letter Office at some point in the future, maybe.
Yeah, well, we have probably 2/3 of enough for that. Maybe after another album with some outtakes, who knows?
Nice. Hey, I'm into recycling. That would be good. That would be really good.
That would be fun.
Very, very cool. So it had been a while between your previous album and this one. How long, how many years went between the 2 albums?
Chinese democracy ain't got nothing on these Canadian boys. Yeah. Okay. So we did 4 albums in like 10 years, and we're then toured a lot. We went over with David Bash over to Liverpool and did the IPO there. Nice. And traveled down to California and played in Canada and toured throughout Europe a few times. And we're really sort of busy during those times. And then around beginning of 2009, we took a hiatus for a few years. It was just one of those things, I had children around, and Steve became a marathon runner of all things. Wow. And Ringo opened a restaurant because he had worked in that world. And we'd always been sort of between bass players. The running joke is also that Spinal Tap has nothing on us because we've actually had 18 different people play bass at some point in this band, in one way or another. Wow. Not full-time members, but, like someone comes in and plays on a track on a recording or fills in for a gig or two or something. But yeah, it's always been sort of the running joke. We did have a fellow Shane for about 9 years, which was great. And Adam's always filled in when we need him too, which is, killer. Because, what could be better than having your brother in your band, really? Exactly. And the answer is none more black. So, around 2009, we took a little break and started doing other stuff. And then in 2013, a mutual friend who, funnily enough, played on Game Day, played organ on a couple songs, named Derek. He was putting together this fun sort of Christmassy band thing, and he had already got Steve and Shane, our old bass player, involved in it. So he thought, well, I got half of Star Collector there. Maybe I can coax Vic out of retirement or hiatus or whatever to come and just do a short set. So he asked me, and he's a great guy, and I said, oh, sure, why not? And Ringo, of course, just said, sure, I'll do it. And we had so much fun that we just kind of started up again really organically. It was not with any kind of master plan. It was just like, wow, this just feels really fresh again and really exciting. And then we kind of just played gigs. I didn't start writing, and it was just fun for, about 4 years. And then this whole Game Day thing started to come together, and I started to take it more seriously again and got really excited about it. And having Adam and Adrian involved now too just brought a little bit of fresh excitement into the mix. And now we're just like kind of back gung ho. Like I said, got most of a new album kind of ready to, written, not arranged or anything yet, but one step at a time. I love it. I mean, that's kind of the best way to go, where you're doing this because it's fun. I mean, the gigs were fun, and now that creative spark just kicked in, and you have an album and now another album. That's the way to do it, where it just flows naturally. If it seems like you're doing it because you have to do it, then what's the point? Yeah, it really didn't feel forced at all. In fact, when we took the hiatus, it was just starting to feel like I was feeling, mostly as a writer, I was starting to feel like I was recycling things. Like, okay, we've got this cool music. What should the words be about? And I kept coming back to similar kind of themes that I'd written about before, and felt like I was kind of, being a little bit of a retread or something. So it just didn't feel natural at the time. But then when we started playing again, the band felt fresh, and then when I started writing again, the writing felt fresh. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. There's, when it feels real and natural and comfortable, it. And conversely, when it feels the opposite, it too, or at least you should. So it all worked out great. I got no complaints at all, and I couldn't ask for better guys in the band. I mean, not only as people, but as musicians too. I mean, you can hear it on the tracks. They're just smoking good musicians, and they cover up for my inadequacies as a guitarist.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. I'd love to see what a live gig of yours would look like, sound like, and feel like. What is a live Star Collector gig like anyway? What as a listener, what can I expect from one of your gigs?
Well, it's definitely a high energy thing. There's no staring at your shoes or, back to the audience or any of that stuff. To each his own. Everyone's got their own style of performing, but ours. I harken back to the Jam and the Who as that was the era that really got us off as kids, and still there's just something about. There's something about jumping around like horny teenagers that never gets, I don't know, maybe it gets a little creepy, but it never gets old when you're up there. The feeling of it, of just letting loose. It's kind of, it's kind of like what we were just talking about the writing and the playing is when it feels, there's a certain stuff, there's things that feel natural when you're on stage. And that, for us, the way that we perform is just kind of naturally how we do it. It's not like it's changed a million ways, over the years. It's just always been a high energy thing. So yeah, I mean, if you like a nice laid back acoustic set, then maybe a Star Collector show's not for you. But if you like a high energy, where the singer probably jumps and then twists his ankle and falls into the drummer's cymbals and makes an ass of himself, well, that just might be us.
Putting it all out there on stage. Yes, my doctor says that Star Collector might be right for me.
That's right. 2 and 3 doctors recommend Star Collector.
So we're chatting with Vic Wayne of Star Collector. Before I forget, where can my listeners find out more about the band and purchase Game Day or any of your other music?
Well, it's on all streaming services, Apple Music and Spotify and all those, Amazon. And we have a YouTube channel that we set up where we've been posting our videos, like old performance videos, as well as the new ones that Steve's done. And that's been really fun to sort of, dig up stuff and then get it put up there. And so the music's available on there. And then the CDs, we distribute them through Ray at Cool Cat Music.
Oh, nice.
And he lists them all there. So for CD sales, that's a good place to go as well. So it's out there.
Yeah, you're in good hands with Ray, that's for sure. So now we move into the lifestyle portion of our interview. So first and foremost, get this out of the way. Most important question I will have asked you today: what's your favorite food?
My favorite food. Well, when I was a kid, I would have said roast chicken and corn on the cob.
Nice.
But what would I say now? You know what I'd say now? It's exactly what I'm having for dinner tonight. It's really, really good Thai food.
Yum. Oh, wow. Is there a Thai restaurant near you, or do you guys actually cook Thai food?
There's not a really good one near us. I live up in North Vancouver, and we don't have a lot of really top-notch ethnic restaurants here. I love Indian food. I love Thai food. Those are probably my 2 favorites. And the best restaurants for Indian food are out in like Oxford and Surrey areas. But there's a great Thai food restaurant downtown Vancouver that I like to stop whenever I'm zipping through. So we're going to actually make the effort to drive over there and get some takeout because there ain't no eating in.
Not at this point in time.
What's your favorite food?
If you had to back me up against the wall and ask me to narrow it down to just one, I would say tortilla chips and guacamole, or any Mexican food, just hands down.
Okay, so yeah, Mexican's in my triumvirate. So those are my 3 favorites too. I can't get enough of hot sauces and all that stuff too.
Oh.
So I'm with you.
There you go. And of course, it's my own fault for asking around lunchtime on the West Coast. I'm getting hungry. You've been to California. Have you made it to Sacramento at all?
Have I been through Sacramento personally? No, we haven't played in Sacramento. We the last time that we toured down there was quite a while ago, and it was we did like LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, kind of down that West Coast there.
Right.
But we did not play in Sacramento, unfortunately.
Did you play at all the IPOs in those other cities you mentioned?
Just the one in LA. The others were other shows that we had set up. But we have played IPO in Portland. Actually, just recently we went down there for the last time that David ran it there, and go down to Seattle to play as well. But right now there's not only is there no cross-border gigs, there's just no gigs.
No gigs, indeed. So, do you have anything on the horizon, or are people starting to talk about maybe booking some gigs?
It hasn't been talked about here. It's really, really just let's try and get this thing under control before we go there. So, rather than stewing about it, like I said, we're just trying to, write new songs, create new videos as best we can, and do what we're doing right now. You and I is just, having a good old chat to get the word out there and try to, do the whole promo thing, which is, I got to say, like I mentioned earlier about the amazing power pop community, but there's just some really, really supportive folks out there, and it's been pretty cool to see the way it works. And the other thing is that because there's been so many years between our fourth and fifth album, things have changed a lot. Like a lot in terms of the way that you can actually, just simply use the internet to reach people. I mean, it was around during the last album. It wasn't like we made it in the Ice Age or anything.
Right.
But it has changed a lot. And you actually feel like these people that you've never met, you and I are great examples. The first time we've actually spoken. Yeah. You start to feel like you get to know these people and you're kind of becoming friends with them, even though you haven't met them. There's just such a good vibe in that community. So we're pretty thankful, I got to say.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's funny when you do meet somebody in real life, it almost feels like you're meeting either a long lost friend or a celebrity. I remember going to the IPO in San Francisco back in 2014. My wife and I drove out there so we could see Lanny Flowers and Blake Jones, the Trike Shop. Met Jason Burke there. He did a great set. And then David Bash during the intermission just offhandedly said, "Hey, visit the merch table. Jeff Shelton's working there." And I'm like, the Jeff Shelton? It's just like, it was like a celebrity sighting to me. It was so cool.
I got a little Jeff Shelton story, funnily enough.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So back when we were touring down in California, the one, like basically the last time we went down there that I just mentioned, Jeff's name came up back when he was in a band called the Spinning Jennies. Yeah. And I don't know who put me in touch with him. Somebody along the way. Could have been David, could have been someone else. But we made contact, and he, tried to help us get some gigs and stuff. And then after our hiatus and having not played there for quite some time, we just, didn't really keep in touch. And then when this album came out, his name came up, and I noticed he had a power pop podcast, and I didn't realize that he had a new band, of course, because it had been a few years. Yeah. And he's had the Well-Wishers for 12, 13 years or something.
Yeah, I think so.
And so we made contact, and I'm looking at his name, and I'm going, I think I know you. So suddenly we reconnected the dots, and we chatted back and forth. We've actually mailed each other discs of our previous releases, and I'm a huge fan of his new band. I've been listening to 4 or 5 of his albums, and the newest one, Shelf Life, is just brilliant.
It is brilliant.
So anyone out there in radio land that wants to check out something other than Game Day, feel free to check out Shelf Life by Jeff Shelton's band, the Well-Wishers. It is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's a good couple hours of listening. You put on Game Day and then put on Shelf Life. I'm a big fan of both records. I should start doing is maybe putting up playlists of what I listen to during my workday, because I remember one day a couple weeks ago I listened to 5 albums in a row, and I thought, gosh, this is actually a great afternoon of music. I should tell people about it so they could do the same thing. It was my work playlist, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you should. I'm sure, because you have a lot of people that listen to you. I'm sure they'd be really keen to hear what some of your faves are. I know I would. Okay,
well, we should all do that. Like, what do you listen to when driving? Long distance. What do you listen to while working? I mean, just some of this music puts you in a mood, or it makes the day go by fast, and it's a lot of musicians we know. So, couple more questions. Do you have any dream collaborations? There's somebody you would love to collaborate with, musically speaking.
Well, that's a good one. I was asked this in a print interview the other day, who would I want to write songs with? And they said, name 3 people. And it was so difficult that I had to break it down into categories.
Ah, okay.
So I was like, okay, these 3 dead guys, these 3 British guys, these 3 American guys. Yeah, that's a tough one. There's so many talented people out there. I guess it seems okay. I'm just trying to narrow it down here. So there's a songwriter out of New York named David Fagan. You might remember he had a band called the Rosenbergs back about 15 years ago.
Okay, I've heard the name.
Are you
yeah,
familiar with them?
not the music, but I've heard the name.
Okay, they're an absolutely amazing pop band, and he's released one solo album and a few songs since then. But he's a guy who I've admired for, probably 15, 20 years. And I'm friends with him on Facebook and stuff, but it just doesn't sort of seem to have that kind of relationship. I just, if I had a wish of somebody that has just like a melodic sense that's, unparalleled in my opinion, that he's one guy. For people that maybe other folks know better, I mentioned Kevin Kane, who I wrote a song with and co-produced with, and he's another person I greatly admire. So I loved working with him and writing one tune with him. So I'd be happy to write more with him.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, that's really great. So I'm just gonna put it out there. Hey, you guys, Kevin and David, if you're listening right now, we have a collaboration that needs to happen here. Just gonna put it out there. Do my part here.
Oh yeah, and I'd love to include a co-write with my brother on our next album if he's out there listening. Send me some music, Adam.
Do it. That would be awesome. Yes, you guys need to co-write. Your brothers, you come from the same place, so yes, that'd be wonderful. And lastly, do you have any secret talents or superpowers that maybe you're not so well known for? Is there something that you're good at that people would be surprised at? And I always use my example. I'm good at parallel parking. Do you have any skill or talent or superpower like that?
Well, I'm not even going to hesitate. I've got 2, and no people out there in Radio Land. This was not a pre-planned question, so it's not like I had this prepared. But immediately, I've got 2 for you.
Wow!
So you're good at parallel parking. Mine is not a superpower. We call it parking karma. No matter where I go,
yes,
I always get a parking spot.
Ooh, you were probably really helpful when you were in San Francisco.
It's the weirdest thing. Like, if I had that kind of luck in the rest of my life, I'd probably have a few lotteries in my back pocket. But that is truly just a really weird thing. Like, it'll be downtown Vancouver on a Saturday night back, pre when people used to go out. And there'd be like nowhere to park at the place that I want to go, like, the restaurant or whatever. And as soon as I drive by, someone's pulling out right in front. It happens all the time. It's the weirdest thing. So that's one.
That's perfect.
And then secret talent. I don't know if it's a secret, but people often comment on my voice. So I think that my secret talent that I might have missed is that I should have been doing phone sex.
Say that again. Doing what?
Phone sex.
Oh, there you go. That it's a cash.
Hey, baby, kind of Barry White kind of thing. Hey, baby.
Lucrative cash business. There you go. Pick up a few extra bucks to feed the family. My goodness. Well, you know what? I think I could probably participate in the first one with you, not so much the second one. I could see you and I getting together, driving around some city on a Saturday night. I'll drive. You use your parking karma. We'll find that spot that you've unearthed. I'll parallel park right into it. One-way street downtown Vancouver. We could do this thing.
Perfect. That sounds great. And then we'll park out front of the radio station. You'll go in and DJ, and I'll go do a phone section.
Yes, you do that. Come back, and you'll have earned like $50, and we go out for drinks afterwards. That's perfect.
Yeah. So I know that you did mention that we were going to play one tune out. I mean, unless you got any more questions, which I'm happy to answer. But,
I think the last question is going to be, what song do you want to hear at the end here?
Perfect. Okay. So I was thinking about this, and one song that I would love to finish with is actually the last song on the album, called Funeral Party.
Okay.
And because there's a couple good stories that go along with it. One of them is that it actually was written about Ringo, our old drummer, who's just a dear, dear friend, and just, one of the great guys that I've ever met in my life. Just a really good human being, hilarious, easygoing, and just great to have around. And so it's actually a song about, you know, if I thought of all the people I know, who would want to actually have a party when they died?
Ah,
that's Ringo.
really?
And then the second part of the story is simply that it's got a great outro that Kevin Kane does a guitar duel with Steve at the end, which Adam and Adrian and I are just kind of hanging on for dear life as they take us to the end. So I'd love to finish with that one if that's cool with you.
Absolutely, and it is a great way to end the album. I can appreciate when, you know, an album doesn't peter out at the end; it just keeps going and, you know, kind of ends on a high note. And this one certainly does with "Funeral Party." So, Vic Wayne, stay on the line with me. But thank you so much for hanging out with me on Woody Radio today. It's been great chatting.
It's been fab. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me, Mike.
My pleasure. Here's "Funeral Party" by Star Collector on Woody Radio.
Let's get this party started. Let's toast our dear departed friend. Every story you can think of, every drink that you can drink of then. Get fall down drunk with laughter, the jokes, the great hereafter now. Fate really is the leveler. See you the 12th of never chow. It's what I would have wanted, would have loved, he said. And wouldn't it be funny dancing on my head? It's my party, you can cry if you want to, but I would rather see you smile. I would rather see you high. Bring out the wine and dine and all. Twist this joint to a point, y'all, please. Turn up the Bunnyman tracks. Dance in your funeral blacks, you tease. It's what I would have wanted, would have loved, he said. And wouldn't it be funny dancing on my head? It's my party, you can cry if you want to, but I would rather see you smile. What's the point in asking why? It's my party, I can die if I have to, but I would rather let it slide. I would rather see you high. Down by the Grand Forks in the road, black ice go round the wide load. Spun out on Highway 3, a last laugh at the irony. It's my party, you can cry if you want to, but